Got to keep it separated. Section 3, on to the Senate. So that's Section 2 is about the House of Representatives. We'll come into more stuff about that later, though. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by popular election for 6 years. Now, it didn't used to be chosen by popular election. That was changed by one of the amendments. And each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. 3 classes of senators. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year. The second class at the expiration of the 4th, and the third at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. So, first-class senators are out in 2 years. If you're third class, you stay 6 years. It has nothing to do with how high class you are. You get it. That's just starting the government. And then from then on, senators all serve 6 years. But if you're a first-class governor, you would be elected in 54, 60, 66, 72. If you're second class, you'd be elected in 56, 62. So this is just a way to start the government off. That's just the formula for that. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election, as the legislature may direct. I don't see any problems there, so I've left that. No person shall be a senator who should not have attained the age of 30 years, slightly more prestigious body, and been 10 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen, obviously. Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate. Pause for a second there. In case you didn't know, that is the only job of the Vice President, to stand by in case the President of the United States dies, and to preside over the Senate. And if the Senate is ever equally divided, and since it can always be equally divided because there's 2 from every state, so the possibility, no matter how many states there are, is always possibility because it's a equal number of senators. It shall have no vote, continuing now with the text, the Vice President shall have no vote unless the Senate be equally divided. I think that's pretty ingenious. As John Adams said, it is the most boring job on the face of the planet to sit there and listen to these people absolutely repeat each other, and they stand up and say, everyone has to have their 10 minutes. They stand up and say, well, everything's been said by everybody here but me. So then they go ahead and say what's been already said, because they haven't had their turn to say it yet. And he said this is the most boring job. And it's just in case they actually have a tie vote that he has to be there all the time. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. So if he goes to the Bahamas for some sun, then the pro tempore, President pro tempore, acts. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. So it is a solemn duty. They become judges of a sort when they sit on that purpose. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. And no person, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So, judgment in cases of impeachment. If they impeach the President, they tell the President, you have to come here and speak under oath, and then they judge against him. Here's the maximum that the Senate can do. It cannot go further than removal from office and disqualification to hold or enjoy any future office. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. So the Senate itself can do no more than just tell the President, you're out of office and you'll never be in any office again. That's all the Senate can do. They have no further power than that, just to judge on whether or not the crime was committed or whatever. That's it, to throw him from office. Then every other conceivable thing, like whether it's murder or burglary or theft or whatever, anything the President may have done has to then be further tried in regular criminal courts or civil courts or whatever the case may be. Pretty ingenious, well thought out. I thought that all that could basically stay. Section 4 on elections and meetings. Now, this whole thing may basically be superfluous, but basically it's a skeleton, a backbone for what would have to happen. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. Okay? The legislatures of each state get to make laws about this. But Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations. So Congress has priority in the Constitution. Unless they don't want to exercise it, then it's up to the state. Except as to the place of choosing senators. Except as to the place of choosing senators. Why is that so important? Maybe some dry technical thing back then, and electronics and mass media and stuff will completely do away with that consideration. So choosing senators, the states always get to say. The federal government has the power to prescribe other elections, except if they don't want to exercise that power, then it's up to the state. That's all that. The Congress shall assemble at least once every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Now, I struck that, and I just put the third day of January, because then they can start the new year clean and fresh after the holiday season. That's the only correction I thought could be made. The first Monday in December, I don't know why they chose that. The one thing is that in the summers, you tried to stay out of the cities. And it's kind of odd that they met in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787 for the Constitutional Convention. Because in the summer, you basically tried to stay out of the cities. Very dangerous, deadly rickets, yellow fever, diphtheria, whooping cough, all kinds of things went through the cities in the summer and cut down people like a scythe, says Catherine Drinker Bowen. But maybe that's why they start in December. Best not to be traveling December, but better than being in the city in the summer. So that could be adapted infinitely. You could have Congress sit. I think after the holiday season and for a 2 or 3 month period, it'd probably be the best way to do it. That's all I could come up with on that. Now let's go to Section 5, Membership, Rules, Journals, Adjournment. Each House shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. Now, I explained what a quorum was to my students when we were doing Congress at my school, and we decided on a quorum of 2/3 at one point. Then they lowered it to a quorum of half. Then they lowered it to a quorum of 1/3. And I said, that's it, you can't lower it any further than that, because every once in a while someone would be absent or whatever, and then somebody else would be over on the other side with Bobby Sue and the younger kids doing story time or whatever. So it's just not enough of us to do Congress, and they wanted to do Congress. So they kept lowering the quorum when they had a chance. Okay, interesting fact there. So a quorum of a majority. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Now, that might be played with a bit. I don't know exactly what to do with it, but to allow them to provide their own rules and penalties for attendance and being compelled to attend. I don't know. It's like leaving the fox in the hen house or something. Why should they write their own rules? But otherwise, you'd have to write it into the Constitution. I don't know another way to do it. To write it into the Constitution, the rules for that, that might be studied on a bit, see?